There has become a thing that's gone on, it seems like in this, especially this last year, ideology is more important than art.
Way more, certainly to the awards.
Yeah. And it's just, it's like, ideology trumps art. Ideology trumps individual effort. Ideology trumps good. Ideology trumps entertaining. You couldn't say shit if you had a mouthful. All right. And every bestseller, every play that was turned into a movie, if there was anything cool about it or anything, that's all going to be drained out of the movie. It's going to be weaned out of the movie. It's just the way it is.
These days, it feels like anything with a bold or edgy idea, whether it's a best-selling book or a stage play headed for the big screen, gets watered down before it ever reaches us. The film industry often plays it safe, scrubbing out anything that might be too provocative or challenging. That's just how things tend to work now. But recently, Quentin Tarantino shook things up in a big way. During a fiery and honest conversation with the always outspoken Bill Maher, Tarantino didn't hold back. He openly criticized the people who have taken aim at his work over the years, calling them out as overly self-righteous and more concerned with looking woke than actually engaging with the art. Of course, Maher didn't just sit there quietly. Known for his sharp comebacks and no-nonsense style, he pushed back, keeping the conversation lively and full of energy. The result? A raw, no-holds-barred exchange that felt refreshing in an era where so many voices are cautious and filtered. For anyone tired of the same old Hollywood polish and craving real, unfiltered opinions, this was definitely a moment worth watching.
Before we run out of time, I have to say to you, besides the great entertainment, I have always really appreciated the way you pushed back. When anyone tried to stifle you, shut you up, shame you, bully you. They tried it with the last one, with Once Upon a Time in the Hollywood, some bullshit about Margot Robbie doesn't have enough lines. And you do what I wish other people would do. Instead of apologizing like a little you say, I don't agree with your assessment.
Bill Maher has never been shy about calling out Hollywood's obsession with woke trends. He's talked time and again about how the industry seems more focused on checking boxes and chasing hashtags than telling deep, meaningful stories. Today, too many films sacrifice strong characters and real emotion for quick social points. But even with all that noise in the background, a few voices still stand out, and Quentin Tarantino is one of the most powerful among them. Even Maher, who's one of Hollywood's harshest critics, has real respect for Tarantino. Why? Because Tarantino sticks to what he believes in. He's old school in the best way. He doesn't chase fads, preach to audiences, or bend to the pressure of popular opinion. Instead, he tells the stories he wants to tell. Bold, raw, and thought-provoking. In an industry where many play it safe, Tarantino takes risks. He doesn't just follow the rules, he rewrites them. And that's what makes his work stand out. It's not just different, it's fearless. And honestly, it's the kind of honesty and creativity the film world could use a lot more of.
That's gone on, it seems like in this, especially this last year, ideology is more important than art.
Way more, certainly to the awards.
Yeah. And it's just, it's like, ideology trumps art. Ideology trumps individual effort. Ideology trumps good. Ideology trumps entertaining.
There's two kinds of movies, virtue signalers and superheroes.
This is exactly why Bill Maher has so much respect for Quentin Tarantino. Tarantino is one of the few people on the left who's willing to speak up when things go too far, even within his own circles. He doesn't sugarcoat the truth. And Maher sees that kind of honesty as something truly rare in today's Hollywood. Over time, we've all seen the entertainment world drift away from creativity and strong storytelling. Instead, it's become more focused on pushing a narrow agenda and checking all the right political boxes, often at the expense of the story itself. Take the recent Snow White reboot, for example. It was both a critical and box office failure, and it's easy to see why. The filmmakers were so focused on avoiding offense that they ended up removing the heart of the original story. Instead of casting real little people, actors who've long valued and embraced the roles of the Seven Dwarves, they used CGI to replace them. It wasn't progressive. It felt patronizing. That's exactly the kind of hollow, performative gesture that both Tarantino and Maher call out. They're not against change, they're just tired of seeing creativity sacrificed for empty virtue signaling, and they're not afraid to say so.
Are you bullish on the future of movies? Because
well, look, you have to always look at it.
Are we going to get back to that place?
Look, this happened. This comes in waves. This absolutely comes in waves. All right, so it's like, okay, just looking at the 40s. All right, that was during the wartime, but that's also the time that you had film noir, where you actually, even though with the Hays Code, you had these dark stories that were being told. But then after the war was won, then you had the 50s, which was the first of the completely homogenized decades, where you couldn't say shit if you had a mouthful.
Let's take a moment to focus on something powerful. Quentin Tarantino said something that really hits home. He pointed out the old Hays Code, a strict set of rules Hollywood followed back in the 1930s to censor anything seen as too provocative, especially when it came to sex or anything that challenged the status quo. At the time, many saw it as an attack on free speech, a way to strip movies of bold ideas and creative freedom in the name of moral decency. Here's the kicker. Tarantino believes we're seeing a modern version of that same censorship today, but now it's not coming from government rules or religious watchdogs. It's coming from social media and loud activist voices. Instead of open dialogue, we get digital outrage. Instead of creative risk-taking, we get fear of being canceled. Filmmakers who step outside the approved ideological lines often find themselves attacked online. Directors hold
starts in about 67, and that's when New Hollywood comes out. Yeah. And that's an absolute positive response to the homogenized 50s.
So it's going to come back again.
Okay, and then it goes into the 70s, but then we went into the 80s.
All right.
And that's why you came up with Politically Incorrect, because that was the first. This is basically the 80s part 2, what we're living through right now.
Well, I'll just take one more go at it. There's going to be a new golden age. Please be there and part of it.
Here's something that really caught people's attention. Tarantino believes Hollywood might finally be starting to move away from the wave of woke culture that's dominated it for the past few years. And honestly, if that's true, it's a welcome shift. Let's face it, this era of performative progressivism hasn't just run its course. It's become stifling. Too many movies today feel more like lectures than stories. Instead of imagination, we get predictable plots packed with political messaging. Instead of creativity, we get safe, scripted content that's afraid to take risks. If Tarantino's right, and the industry is ready to get back to focusing on character, emotion, and storytelling that truly connects with people, then bring it on. That kind of shift could breathe new life into filmmaking. We're talking about the kind of movies that stay with you, make you feel something, maybe even challenge your views, not just tell you what to think. But during his conversation with Joe Rogan, Tarantino also shared a more concerning thought. One that adds depth to the conversation and reminds us that Hollywood's problems aren't just about trends. There's something deeper going on, and what he said next is worth a closer look.
And then there's like, okay, this guy or this woman is going to write a think piece in the New Yorker. About my movie, or in the Los Angeles Times, or in the New York Times, and they're going to write some think piece about it, or on this website or that website, and they're going to go against it and talk about, oh, this is a retrograde vision, or that this is a regressive vision, or Quentin has become right wing, and this movie has a right wing bent because of the way they, Quentin is identifying with Rick Dalton with hippies. That's how it's going.
Is that really a take that someone had, that you've become right wing because of a character in a film?
Even like a critic who liked it, A.O. Scott, goes, well, this whole vision seems more on the right than you would imagine.
It might sound surprising, but this kind of thing happens more often than you'd think. These days, a lot of people, especially on the political left, tend to view movies strictly through a political lens. If a film even hints at a conservative idea or tone, the reaction can be intense. Suddenly, it's not just a movie. It's seen as dangerous. The criticism starts flying, targeting everyone involved: the actors, the writers, the director, anyone who dared to step outside the accepted narrative. But here's what often gets lost in all that outrage. movies aren't supposed to live in a political bubble. Film is a form of art, and good art reflects all sides of life, the hopes, the flaws, the messy truths. Not every story is going to match your personal beliefs. And honestly, that's a good thing. Art is meant to make us think, to challenge us, even to make us uncomfortable sometimes. If we start rejecting films just because they don't follow a certain political script, we're not protecting art, we're limiting it. And in doing so, we risk losing exactly what makes movies powerful in the first place.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily make it wrong, make it bad, but it just seems like more on the right. Well, Rick is coming from a place more on the right, not me.
Yeah.
Per se, but I am telling the story through Rick's point of view. And then, they say something, well, how come they don't talk about, how come there aren't more black characters in the movie? How come they don't talk about the Vietnam War more? Well, basically, the movie takes place between 2 days. Okay, well, they didn't bump into Jim Brown, right, on those 2 days. All right, they saw who they saw during those 2 days. Well, they didn't have a conversation about Vietnam in those 2 days.
Exactly. It's time for overly sensitive critics and self-appointed social justice warriors to recognize a simple truth. Not every movie is meant to teach a lesson or carry a political message. Some films exist purely to entertain, to let us escape, laugh, feel joy, or get lost in a different world. And that's perfectly fine. Other movies do tackle serious, even uncomfortable issues, and they absolutely have a place too. But not every story needs to take on the weight of a moral mission. There's room in cinema for both, lighthearted fun and deep reflection. What often gets overlooked is that filmmakers are, first and foremost, storytellers. Their job is to bring a vision to life, not necessarily to push an agenda or promote their personal views. Sometimes they create characters and situations that challenge their own beliefs, simply to explore the human experience from different angles. When directors are pressured to force social or political messages into stories that weren't built, for them, it doesn't elevate the work. It weakens it. It turns powerful storytelling into a checklist, stripping away emotion, authenticity, and artistic integrity. The best films leave a mark not because they lecture, but because they connect. They stay with us because of compelling characters, honest emotion, and stories that feel real. That's what great cinema is all about.
I think you're correct. And the thing about it, though, is, look, those kind of like academic college think pieces, they're just fine. Like in a college situation, they make sense. I can take a book or a movie and come up with some argument that goes, that's like that's more of a subtextual argument about a film. That doesn't mean I'm right, but it means I can make my little argument,
right?
For the course. But it doesn't. But I have no illusions that that's what the director was thinking about.
In the end, Tarantino's take is a breath of fresh air, a strong reminder that real art isn't about making everyone happy. It's about telling the truth, sparking thought, and showing life in all its raw, unpredictable forms. He's one of the few voices in Hollywood who refuses to give in to pressure, and even people who don't always agree with him, like Bill Maher, respect that. Whether he's pushing back against the excesses of modern culture or standing up for creative freedom, Tarantino believes filmmakers should be able to tell their stories without fear of backlash. Not every movie needs to deliver a message, and not every director should be judged through a political lens. And now, maybe, Hollywood is starting to wake up. If we're heading into a new chapter where bold, honest storytelling is finally back in style, then sign me up. Because the best movies come from a place of freedom, not from checklists or fear of offending. If Tarantino is right, and this is the start of a real shift in how movies are made, we could be looking at the return of the kind of cinema that truly moves us. No more preaching. No more forced agendas. Just great stories well told. So if you're tired of the noise and ready for more substance, stick around. There's more to come, and you won't want to miss it. See you next time.